All right, today we are going to be making our Javaccino size batch brownies. So the first thing that I did is I went ahead and I melted my 40 ounces of butter. You can either do this on the stove or you can do this in your liquid measuring cups. So I have a bigger bowl here. We're gonna have a large quantity, so we wanna have a lot of room left for us. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my butter in, and then I have 5 pounds of sugar that I have pre-measured, and I'm going to go ahead and add in my sugar. So I have my first bag, my second bag, and after, the last thing I'm going to add into this is my oil. I'm going to start off with a whisk to mix all of these together just because it is a thinner mixture. So, and then I'm going to add in my oil, 170 grams. So, after I have done that, I'm going to go ahead, these are my eggs, but I'm gonna use this whisk. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to go around my sides, and I'm going to mix my butter, oil, and sugar until they are one mixture. Okay, so now that I have my butter and my oil and my sugar together, I'm ready to go ahead and add my eggs. And if you guys remember, we do this kind of in stages. Each class does something else. So one class pre-measured for me, and now I'm just going ahead and being able to like pour and dump. So I've whisked my 20 eggs together. I'm going to add in about half of my eggs. I'm gonna mix those in with my rubber spatula, then I'm gonna go back in and mix again. And then after I do that, I'm going to add in my vanilla. Okay, so now I've gone ahead and I've mixed my eggs and my vanilla in. I should have a pretty thick mixture at this point because these are fudgier brownies. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add in my salt. Salt gives a nice flavor to the brownies so that we're making sure they're not overly sweet. And I'm going to add about half of my bag of flour and about half of my cocoa powder. The big thing to know about cocoa powder is that it is hydrophobic, which means it's scared of water. So it is going to take us a couple mixes to get that around. My biggest tip is to add half of your flour and half of your cocoa powder together, because that flour will help your cocoa powder mix in more easily. And to go up and over to get that cocoa powder really coated in your your like butter mixture. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead, after I have my thick mixture, I should have like a fudgy mixture. I'm going to go ahead and add in my chocolate chips. Please realize there's 2 different amounts of chocolate chips. You are going for your 510 amount. So I'm gonna mix those in until they're all the way evenly dispersed. But while I would give this to a partner to start mixing in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and prepare our pan. So because we're doing this for Javaccino and we're making large amounts, we're going to bake these on a baking sheet. So the big thing is, I would put on a pair of gloves and then I'm going to grab Crisco. I'm not gonna take a ton, but I'm going to start by going all over the corners and the bottom of my pan so that none of the brownies stick to the edges. And I'm going to, I don't need to go all over in the middle. I'm just gonna go around the edges to help my parchment paper lay nice and flat and stay stuck. After I go ahead and do that, I'm gonna take my piece of parchment paper and I'm going to lay it on top so that it's stuck to my Crisco. And after I go here, I'm again going to go around the edges and just make sure that I kind of create like a seal for my Crisco and my paper so that if any of the brownie mixture goes underneath it or anything like that, it's not going to stick to the bottom. I can put a little bit of Crisco throughout on the bottom of the pan, but our big thing here is that parchment paper is non-stick, so we'll be able to peel that right off. All right, now that my pan is done, I'll be back in a second to show you what it looks like when our pan is filled with. All right, so we're back and I've evenly spread my brownie mixture over the entirety of my pan. So the really big thing here is it's a thick mixture and there's a lot of it. So we have to make sure that we're A, meeting all the corners of our pan, but B, we also need to make sure that we have an even amount of batter across the entire pan so that one side doesn't bake unevenly. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to do a topping of chocolate chips. This is my second amount. I'm going to be adding chocolate chips and sprinkles to the top. The sprinkles will vary depending on the season that we're in or what our Javaccino theme is. So Halloween, St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day, spring, winter, we do a lot of different ones. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure these are evenly spread out across the top. After I do that, I'm going to again go in with my sprinkles and I'm going to evenly sprinkle this across. I know this seems like the easiest part, but one thing to think is that this is the first thing that our buyers see at Javaccino, right? So we wanna make sure that we're thinking of how we are evenly spreading these, if we're making them look pretty, and how the final product will turn out. Once we have our sprinkles on top, you are going to put these in the oven, and then we'll come back one more time to show you what it's gonna look like when we cut our brownies and put them in their to-go bags. All right, hi guys, so we're back and we are going to be cutting and bagging our brownies for Javaccino. So because this is a ready-to-eat food, I'm putting my gloves on. So the first thing I'm going to start with is I'm going to have 2 cutting boards ready to go, and I'm going to use my chef's knife. I'm going to start by cutting around the edges of my brownies to make sure that they are unstuck. And I can see that for the most part, it looks like we're lifting. I'm going to come down the other side, just make sure. And then down one more side. Now, after I do this, I'm going to take my brownies and I'm going to flip them on top of my pan and slowly shake off. And then I can see my parchment paper is on the bottom. So now I have this pre-folded amount for brownies. So I've taken this, folded it in half once, folded it in half twice, and once more, and then folded it into fourths, because now I'm gonna be able to map out my brownies. So I go ahead and I put this over top, and now I know where to press with my knife. So I'm just lightly going to act like I'm slicing, but if you're doing multiple trays like we will be doing for Javaccino, you'll have like 4 trays of brownies that we need to do. So we wanna keep this piece of parchment in line and not move it. So I'm gonna go down, I'm going to make all of the cuts. So I'm just gonna do this one side so I don't have to waste your time here. And I'm going to make all my little lines. Now when I go on, I can see my pathway of my brownie to cut. So I can see I have my brownies. So it's gonna be one person cutting, or a couple people cutting and a couple people bagging. So I have my brownie, you can see. I'm trying to make sure it looks nice and beautiful on top. I'm gonna go over, and again, I have to keep my gloves on because again, it is a ready-to-eat food. So I'm going to get one of my bags, and I'm going to, the whole purpose of this also is to make sure that we're looking nice so that buyers want to eat our brownies. So I'm gonna take one of my bags. I'm going to open it up because our brownies they're a decent size, so I don't want to crumble them. I'm going to slide the brownie into the bottom of the bag, making sure it looks nice. Once it's inside of the bag, I can take my gloves off, and I'm going to take my bag, I'm going to fold it over, check how much I need. I'm gonna slice off whatever top portion I don't need, and I'm going to fold over, and I'm going to use a piece of my tape to make sure that I have a nice seal on the bottom so that our brownies do not get stale. And then I'm going to take a sticker and put it on top, ready for sale.